Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
In a world of different people, beliefs, persuasions, and interests, one thing is common amongst us all: our ideas, our opinions, our perspectives. Diversity exists, and our views makes us decide how we should make this world worth living. And amidst our differences, we can still peacefully coexist. We all have a say, and we want to hear from you, from our leaders, decision makers, ordinary citizens whose lives are interdependently connected, that affects not only the present, but the future design of our country and the world we live in. Your opinion matters. We all have perspectives.
Good morning, you're watching the Global News Network, and this is our program, Perspectives. I am your host, Marides Fernando, and this morning we have with us our co-host, Cornel Bonco. Cornel, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning. And our guest this morning is an American who has lived in the Philippines for a short period of time, but he wrote a book, and is the author of a book called Treasure Islands. And let's welcome our guest for today, David Newby. Good morning, David. David is married to a Filipina and has lived in the Philippines on and off and visited the country for many times and has wrote this book about how to buy and sell gold safely in the Philippines. So he's a coach and a wealth advisor, wealth consultant. Okay, so David, how did you come to the Philippines in the first place? How did you get to know about the Philippines?
Sa US, I grew up poor. I thought I was poor in the US. We lived on welfare while my mom went to nursing school. So I thought that we were poor, and that was in 1984, actually the summer of People Power that I just saw on the screen there.
Oh.
And I experienced in Caloocan City, Bagong Barrio, Filipino poverty. So it really changed my perspective sa buhay, that even if you're poor, there's always someone who has less than you. And there's always something you can be thankful for, diba?
Yeah.
So I really learned gratitude and graciousness from Filipinos.
And how old were you at that time?
I turned 10 years old that summer po, sampo.
Wow.
So when we went back to the States, my mom finished nursing school. I told her, sabi ko, Mom, one day I will marry a Filipina.
Oh.
So I forgot I said it, but I did.
And she reminded you later on that you promised that? Or
Tama, on my wedding day, she told me, when you were 10
really?
years old, you told me you would marry a Filipina.
Is that right?
So mas importante ang what you'd say, I will do one day. You know, the power of intention sa iyong ulo, diba? Yeah.
Okay, so you speak Tagalog very well. Did you learn that from your Filipino wife?
Na maraming beses po, nangasawa ko sa Pinoy simbahan sa US, natuturo ko sa Rosetta Stone software program.
Okay.
I've even gone to Filipino school, nasa Detroit, Michigan.
Right.
Wow.
So,
Okay. And how long did you do the research for this book that you wrote about Treasure Islands?
I've been studying Philippine history, like I love your Rizal statue here.
Yes.
I've been studying Philippine history for about the last 5 years, and in gold specifically, God opened some doors in the last 2 years to actually study and work in the gold industry here in Pilipinas.
So did you make
the
a lot of
Philippines-
money from gold here?
Well, as I say in the book, it's important to diversify your pera. Don't keep it all of it sa dollar or peso, but have it in many places, like some physical gold, physical silver, invest in your business.
Right.
So yes, God has been opening doors, and it's been very exciting.
So we're not talking about commodities here. We're not talking about gold as a gold certificate or stock.
Yes, tama, very correct. There are about 5 different or 6 main ways you can invest in gold and silver. The most well-known is commodity futures. When I was in my early 20s, I actually traded commodity futures. Very high leverage. It's very high reward, pero very high risk. You can
Yes,
actually lose more than your principal.
Right.
So it's very dangerous if you're not financially savvy. And a lot of the large companies like JP Morgan and banks and large trading firms manipulate those markets. So
Right.
the safest way to invest in gold throughout history not just now, but in the last 6,000 years, is to actually buy physical gold and silver. And sa Pilipinas, may unique situation siya kasi the Philippines is one of the most mineral-rich countries in the world, pero mas underutilized sa mining sector. And many people have like gotten gold as part of their inheritance, or they have found some gold. Treasure hunting is popular here, but people sometimes are not aware of the proper and legal way to sell their gold. So a lot of people are risking going to jail, as we just saw with Corona. No one is above the law, diba?
Right.
A lot of people are doing things illegally and don't know it. So that's why I wrote the book. Kasi Pinoy ako sa puso ko, and I want to help Filipinos do things properly and legally and not risk hurting their family when they're dealing in gold or silver and other commodities.
I noticed that he was wearing the barong. Eh?
Yes.
Very, very nice. Thank you for honoring us with the barong.
Oh, walang naman po, my
Very
pleasure.
galing.
And so, in the book that you wrote about gold trading, what was the reason behind writing the book?
I believe, in my own experience, growing up poor and the process of, sa Biblia sabi niya, you should renew your mind, diba?
Right.
So in my own process of renewing my mind, learning how to think like a successful person thinks in order to have what a successful person has, I had to overcome a lot of limiting poverty consciousness beliefs that I had. So I noticed the same thing in any country in the world. Different people have different challenges in their thinking, talaga. So the real first motivation was just that I love Filipinos, and I want Filipinos to be one of the wealthiest countries in Asia. Nang maraming Pinoy, sabi niya, Chinese are very good at business. Diba? It's a commonly held belief here. And that's true. But I think if you use the right strategies, investing in gold and silver, that in the next 5 to 7 years, Filipinos could be known as the smartest, most financially savvy people in Asia.
So
Kasi may mas magandang opportunity sa silver than gold right now. A lot of people just focus on gold because it's worth more, but silver actually has a much bigger profit potential for the average Filipino.
Yes.
And it's actually much more affordable for the average Filipino. So I want to help Filipinos realize the risk that exists now sa global economy and the opportunity both.
So you're saying that you recommend that people hold on to physical silver and physical gold
Tama.
as part of their investment portfolio. And the reason is the prices continue to appreciate.
Yeah.
And then when or how do they profit from it, and when they can sell it is actually in the book.
Tama, tama.
So you have to buy the book.
Yes, there are a couple key things going on right now. Since 1971, I say on page 51 of the book, that for the first time in world history, all of the currencies of the world went off the gold standard.
Right.
Kasi from Bretton Woods, all of the currencies of the world were backed by the dollar.
Yes.
Right.
And then in 71, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard.
Right.
This is the first time in the history of the world that currencies are not backed by physical gold.
Right.
So mas
you can
unknown
just-
territory.
Yeah. So you're saying countries are just printing money,
Tama.
but there's not enough gold to back all of them up.
Exactly.
Do you know what countries back up their currency?
Well, up until 4 years ago, almost all of the central banks of the world were net sellers of gold. But since 4 years ago, now they are switched and they're actually buying gold again.
Yeah.
So when there's a thing I learned when I traded commodities in my 20s, it's called follow the elephant tracks.
Okay.
You look where the elephants are walking and you follow them. So in this case, the elephants of the world are central banks and hedge funds and multi-billionaires, the very wealthy people talaga.
Right.
And almost every single wealthy client I have and every smart central bank is buying gold.
Okay.
Just to give you an inside story, the Canadian Central Bank actually was looking to buy about 20 metric tons of gold a couple years ago, and they were doing it through another entity because they didn't want to raise a lot of spook their citizens, diba?
Right.
Pero it made the news that the Indian Central Bank bought a lot of gold last year. The Singaporean bank recently just converted a lot of their dollar holdings to gold. So if you look at the writing on the wall, you as the average Pinoy or the average citizen should model the elephants of the world and buy your own physical gold and
Right.
silver
Actually,
also.
there was a story earlier during the maybe 2 or 3 years ago where the government of Thailand was telling them to buy silver. I mean, it's actually the government telling people, buy this, buy that, invest in this, and invest in that.
Opo.
Right. And I think they already profited from it. So then they said, okay, you can now
You can
sell.
sell.
You know, it's
Right.
is it?
Right.
Do you think the government should be doing that?
Well, I talk in my book that it's very important that you should pray for the government. A lot of people...
Pray?
Yes.
Okay.
Na maraming Pinoy sabi niya, oh, mas corrupt ang government, di ba?
Yeah.
And they feel hopeless about that.
Yeah.
But no matter, even if you have only 2 pesos to your name,
Yes.
God hears your voice. And the most powerful thing any Filipino can do is pray for their leaders every day.
Whoa.
Yes.
So I actually pray for Pinoy and the Senate and the Congress. That's the
Yes.
best thing you should do
Yes.
in terms of leadership. I think good leaders should give the citizens freedom and give them good counsel. So by all means, the president or the government are not investment advisors, diba? Pero they can also give people good advice. So
Right.
if that's not their expertise, they should let, maybe promote experts to promote such things.
Yeah.
Pero I think that it's good that the government enables citizens to empower themselves,
Right.
diba? Versus limiting their opportunities or making things hard for them, make it easier. So actually in the book I talk about how here in the Philippines, you can buy gold globally and buy it from the best source, by the most commonly traded gold bullion coins. They're actually issued by a
Right.
government's mint. For example, China's central bank just a couple years ago started selling the gold panda. But Chinese are buying all of the gold pandas. There are none available for export ng Pilipinas or the other countries.
Right.
So since the Bangko Sentral right now, BSP ng Pilipinas, is not making its own bullion coin, that's part of why I wrote the book. I want Filipinos to know where to buy gold and how to buy it and how much to buy. And also how much silver to buy.
Really?
Let's say there's a very big risk, the fact that none of the currencies are backed by gold now. There's also, wherever there's a big risk, there's a very big opportunity.
Yes.
Correct.
So if you're a financially savvy Filipino and you convert part of your cash holdings, your assets, into physical gold and silver, you could not only come out of the economic storm that's coming
Right.
safe, you could actually come out much wealthier.
Whoa.
So meron, I think a lot of people who don't buy some physical metals, they could come out of the next 5 to 7 years only having 1/10 of the purchasing power that their wealth has right now.
Right. Right.
But those that are wise could easily have 10 times or even more of the purchasing power of their wealth. So imagine you have 1,000,000 pesos now, in 5 years from now, that only buys what 10,000 pesos
Right.
buys right now.
Right.
Or imagine that same 1,000,000 pesos could buy you what 100 million pesos could buy you today.
Right.
Yeah.
So meron may risk and opportunity both at this time.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially because deposits right now have very, very small. I mean, deposits have very, very small interests.
Yes. Yes, the banks are actually, on some of the bonds, they're paying negative interest rates.
Right.
Yes.
People are looking for safety and they're willing to accept -0. And when you count in
Yes.
inflation, the cost of goods rising, you're actually losing money every
Right.
year.
Right.
So that's the biggest thing, that's the risk for retirees. Na maraming clients ko are in their 50s and 60s, they're getting near the end of their first main business cycle, maybe moving on to another business. Just like you moved from being a mayor to now you're working in many businesses, di ba po?
Yeah.
Many people are moving on to that next stage in life. And I
Right.
think it's important, and what I love about Filipino culture is that people honor the lolos, the lolas, the
Right.
nanay,
Yes.
diba,
The
tatay.
family.
And one of the best ways you can honor your elders is to empower them and make sure they don't lose the value of everything they worked their whole life for.
Right.
So that's a big part of my motivation writing the
How
book.
much would be a safe investment as far as gold and silver is concerned? About your portfolio, I mean.
Yes, I'm not a financial planner, so most of my clients just pay me for my time and my expertise, and then I want to empower them to make the best decision for themselves. But with that disclaimer, if you will, legally,
Yes.
King Solomon says in Ecclesiastes, divide your portion into 6 or 7. Because hindi mo alam or hindi ko alam ng what misfortune may fall on the earth.
Right.
So you never know what may happen in the future. Only God knows what will happen bukas.
So are you
talaga.
saying that if you had 700 pesos, you should divide 100 for gold, 100 for something,
Silver.
Tama,
100
exactly.
for
Right.
That could be
property.
a very wise application.
Yeah.
Opo.
So the portfolio should be around 15% in gold if you have a portfolio of investments.
Yes. And I
Yes.
talk about, if you want to be more aggressive or more conservative in the book, different proportions or ratios you could have of gold versus silver.
Right.
I say for the first time in the history of the world right now, there is less physical silver above ground than gold. And right now, gold is worth about 40 times per ounce what silver is worth. So just thinking about it logically, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Silver is the second most used industrial commodity after petroleum in the
Right.
world.
Yes.
It's used in all of the iPhones, all of the electronics.
Yes.
So with that trend of the use of silver growing and the
Yes.
proliferation of electronic devices, silver could very easily go up, 4 times more than gold goes up.
Right.
A lot of people think gold could go
Actually,
from...
silver already went up, what, double? in the
Oh,
last
more than
year?
that. It went from, in the last 3 years, from $10 an ounce to over 50, and now it
Okay.
came back down to about 30.
30.
So actually, that pullback from 50 to 30, there's a great buying opportunity in silver.
Okay.
A lot of people think gold may go from 1,500 to over 5,000 per ounce. So that would be about triple the buy.
Wow.
Right.
Yes.
But silver could easily go up 5 or 10 times. So it could go
Okay.
up more than the value of gold.
So you're suggesting that some are in silver, some are in gold still, you know,
Yes.
to diversify your portfolio.
Tama.
Right. Now, gold has already gone up so much in
Mm-hmm.
the last couple of years, and the reason is because precisely you said that central banks no longer back their
Correct.
money with gold,
Yes.
right? And so over that time, don't you think that the price of gold is already quite high?
Yes, if you look at historically,
Mm.
a lot of people would say, hey, in 1980 or 81, gold got up to $850 an ounce. And now it's 1,500, doble lang, di ba?
Yes.
So I shouldn't buy, I already missed the boat.
Yeah.
The people who wanted to make money in gold already made money. It's a very easy thought to think. But there's two things that you should consider to realize that you haven't missed the boat. Actually, we're only in a buyer phase 3 out of 4. Each market has 4 phases.
Right.
Buyer phase 1, buyer phase 2, and then a seller phase 1, seller phase 2. Right now, it's still a buyer's market, meaning the price can go up very much higher. The two factors are this. In 1980, if you adjust for inflation, gold should go over 5,000 an ounce, just based upon inflation, how much the purchasing power of the dollar has gone down. Let's say gold is measured in dollars internationally.
Right.
That's how
Right.
it's priced. That's the first reason. If you include a credit expansion, the expansion of credit card use, on top of the currency expansion, there's been over a tripling of the amount of dollars in circulation since 2008 financial crisis.
Yes.
If you include that, the numbers are crazy. Gold should actually be over $15,000 to $20,000 per ounce. So if you think about it now, for those who have all their money in cash, in paper money, that's very dangerous for them.
Right.
Because they could lose 10 times, they could lose 90%
Right.
of their purchasing power, di ba?
Right.
But for those that are smart and buy some physical gold and silver, they could easily maybe by 5 or 10 times increase the purchasing power of their wealth. So it's both a risk and an opportunity. That's why I'd say at a bare minimum, like you said, put about a third of your portfolio in some physical gold and silver, like a sixth and a sixth.
How about pension plans and you know, other investments?
Now, my mother-in-law actually is a pensionada. And I know
Yes.
in the Philippines, that's considered a very prestigious thing, right? Oh, pensionado ka, you really haven't made, right?
Right.
I actually have clients in the U.S. where there's actually pension plans can be at risk. In the U.S., they estimate that pensions are about $1 trillion underfunded. And I'm not sure about the Philippines, but in general, the challenge with pension plans is that they base their payouts to the pensionados on about a 7 to 8%
Right.
earnings per year in the investments, usually stock market.
Right.
Now, praise God, the Philippine stock market has been doing well the last
Yes.
several years.
Right.
But most of the stock markets around the world
Have gone
been
down.
basically making zero.
Right.
The last 10 years, they've been flat. So if you look at that, they can't keep paying pensionados at an 8% a year
Correct.
clip. When they're
Right.
making zero, they're going to run out of money, diba? So I actually have a client in the U.S. whose pension was cut in half. They worked for a state. They worked for the state of Oregon,
Oh.
and they were supposed to get a $150,000 pension, and they gave them 80. And they basically admitted, we mismanaged your money. Here's half of what you thought you would get.
That's 401k, right?
It was actually a pension from the state itself.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people think, oh, a government pension is safer than a private pension.
Oh.
But that's actually not the case.
Not the case.
Government officials can mismanage money the same as private
Right.
businesses can, diba? And over time, historically, governments have less accountability mechanisms to manage your money well.
Correct.
So again, we shouldn't be afraid of the government or say, oh, well, my pension is going to be ruined. We should pray for our leaders, but at the same time, you should take control of your pension. In America, oftentimes there are mechanisms to take control of your pension. So I always encourage, if you're watching now and you're getting a pension, or you're about to get a pension, inquire with your pension administrator, with your company, and find out, are there ways that you can take, say, a lump sum cash option? My mother-in-law did that.
Oh,
Instead of
okay.
taking the
Right.
monthly payments for 20
Yes.
years, she took the lump sum cash option.
And then what did she do with the money?
Well, she invested it.
In gold.
Well, she invested in different things. I don't know everything she did with her portfolio.
Okay.
But praise God, she's very wise. She's still running a business in her 70s.
Okay.
Whoa.
But if you have that option,
Yes.
I think it would be very wise, Diba, considering the risks of what's happening with the peso and the dollar,
Right.
to take the cash option if you had the ability to.
Right.
So that would be one way to be wise with your pension and protect it and take more control of it.
Right.
Kasi, the more control you're willing to take and more responsibility, then the greater your opportunity to become wealthier.
Yes, that's
But
a
you have
very
to really
interesting.
commit.
But in the Philippines, you know, many people maybe lack discipline, and you have so many relatives who need money.
Oh.
Then they'll borrow the money from you. So people sometimes say, you know, they'd rather put it in somebody who will manage it for them because, you know, they may not have the ability to say no, or
Yes.
you know, because there are so many people borrowing money, you know, what do you call it, casually.
Yes.
So my question
The
to you.
Pamilya 5-6, there's no 6 repayment. Diba?
Yeah, they'll say 5, 6, But if you had 7, you know, areas to invest your money, what would those 7 be?
Well, I think it's important to invest not only in different kinds of investments,
Yes.
but even in different countries of the world or different sectors. A lot of
Oh,
people
okay.
would say, oh, I like
Whoa.
stocks, so let me put my money into 6 different stocks. But if you think about it, sector-wise, you're dependent upon the stock market. If stock investors get scared and have a mass exodus,
Right.
withdrawal of their cash,
Right.
like happened in the U.S. and most of the world in 08, like
Yeah.
it's happening in Greece and Spain right now,
Right.
Yeah.
people are pulling all their money out of the bank over
Yeah.
there. Kasi ng currency crisis, they're losing faith in their government.
Right.
Or in the banking sector in Spain. When that happens, if all your money is in stocks, you're putting your wealth at an unnecessary risk. So one smart way is not only put it in 6 or 7, if you're in real estate, don't just have 6 or 7 apartment buildings, but invest in different sectors. So what I love are things that produce cash flow and have stability long term.
All right.
I didn't write the book because I love gold and silver. It's just a tool to be wise with what's going on in the world right now,
Right.
and protecting the value of your savings. Of course, you could get very, very wealthy. I tell the story in the book of Germany in the 1920s, that some people who were, a lot of rich people got wiped out, and a lot of poor people stayed poor. And then most of the middle class got wiped out as well. They lost all their wealth. But a few smart people actually were converting their Deutschmarks to gold, as every time they earned money, they would take part of it instead of leaving it in cash savings, because the cash value was going down so
Right.
quick. They actually had over 1 billion% inflation in 5 years.
Whoa.
Could you imagine a loaf of bread costing 10 billion pesos?
Oh.
That's what happened in Germany in the 1920s, from 1919 to 1923. So those smart people who actually converted part of their money to physical gold and silver became very, very wealthy.
Right.
In 1924, you could buy a whole city block of commercial real estate in Berlin, that's like the Makati of Germany, for about the equivalent of 5 to 10 gold coins. So just imagine, of course, none of us are hoping there would be a hyperinflation in the Philippines, Dubai.
Right.
But God forbid, if that happened, which is a real possibility, you can become very, very wealthy buying gold and silver. So sector-wise, I recommend buying some precious metals. I love commercial real estate. I say
Yes.
that pays you monthly cash flow. And
Right.
people, I
Yes.
love apartments because
Yes.
people need a place to live no matter what the
What?
rent is, no matter what
Right.
the economy is. Diba?
Okay.
Shopping centers, people can stop shopping
Yes.
if the economy really has a downfall.
Okay.
I love commercial real estate. And then I also think you should invest in your own businesses. I think it's
Yes.
very wise to have 1 or 2 businesses, which
Yes.
involves you have to invest in your own thinking. Surround
Yes.
yourself with good
Right.
advisors
Okay.
so that you can make good business decisions. I'm sure you've run many successful businesses. You realize that your team is más importante.
Yes.
And having the right advice so that you
Right.
manage the business properly.
Correct,
diba?
yes.
And then last but not least, I think that equities and some cash are good.
Okay.
If there's a currency crisis and people don't want to accept pesos, or they would rather get a silver coin
Right.
for a bag of groceries, then maybe it costs 50,000 pesos for a bag of groceries 6 years from now. Then that's why I like silver coins a lot. Because say gold, you would have to buy a lot of stuff to
Right.
pay with 1 gold coin.
Right.
Yes.
Pero if you have some cash and some coins, you can use it to pay for things. So it's very practical as
Right.
well as a way to protect your wealth and grow your wealth.
Okay. So
So
thank
those are
you.
good diversifications.
Yeah.
Cash, currencies in terms of currency is real physical gold and silver, some commercial real estate, have your own business, and then also just have some traditional investments as
It
well.
seems like 7 is quite a lot to handle. Yeah, to be able to juggle all of this, no? But I guess, if you can manage all of that,
You could
that's
easily
great.
do it in only like 3 sectors.
Uh-huh.
Say you don't know someone who invests in commercial real estate, and actually I
Yes.
give in the book a resource to invest passively in commercial real estate in the
Yes.
Philippines.
And we'll talk more about that as we take a break.
Okay.
All right.
We'll be back. We're back in the program Perspectives, and I'm your host, Marides Fernando. This morning we have our co-host, Cornel Bonco. Again, welcome.
Well, grabe.
Yes.
The Philippines has been known as a gold-producing country for a very,
Yes.
very long time now. And in fact, a lot of the provinces are really named after gold. Like Cagayan de Oro. That oro
Yes.
is gold in Spanish.
The city of gold.
Yes. Mindoro, for example, is really Mina de Oro. So it's divided to the
So we have so
Occidental
much, so many gold mines here in the
we
Philippines.
have a lot of reference to gold as far as
Yeah.
our history is concerned, and as far as the names of our provinces are concerned. Would you have an inkling of how gold mining in the Philippines started?
Yes, the Spanish actually started doing small gold mines as early as the early 1600s. I have some friends from Iloilo and different areas of Visayas, and there are several regions like Mount Dawal, is it called?
Right?
Diwal.
Dadiwal,
Diwal.
mines, Compostela Valley. There are many areas known for
Right.
lots of gold.
Yes.
So the Spanish had, there are small Spanish companies with mining throughout the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s.
Yes.
Filipinos, for the first time after the War for Philippine Independence was over, were able to and allowed to own their own gold mines. So a lot of small-scale mining throughout the early 1900s. Of course, there's a lot of crazy stories about gold from World War II. We've all heard of
Right.
Yamashita's gold, and there are many...
Do you believe that that's true? The Yamashita gold
I
treasure?
personally have actually, my group, we have tested 3 real gold bars. Now, whether they're from a Yamashita treasure, only God knows.
Whoa.
I love Filipinos are some of the most fun people to be around. I've heard lots of awesome stories. They're probably 10% true and 90% made up.
Yes.
There's always some truth in any
And
story.
there are
talaga.
so many gold treasure hunters.
Yes,
Right.
Yeah.
but some people do find real gold, and I've met several people actually who have gone broke searching for treasure
True,
gold.
true.
And so, what's much more important than knowing how to find it is knowing how to sell it. That's why in the title of the book I put how to safely sell it. I
Yes.
say there are people that will cheat you if you don't know what you're doing,
Yes.
and you could be breaking a law and not realize it if you don't know
Right.
what you're doing. So
Wow.
your exit strategy is much more important than knowing how to get something. A lot of people think you make your money when you buy,
Right.
but that's part of the equation only. You actually have to know how to sell to realize the profit.
Correct,
of
yes,
that.
yes.
So yes, there's been a lot of gold mining. Fast forwarding from the 1980s to today in the Philippines, the Philippines is the 7th most mineral-rich country in the world.
Number 7.
Yes, but it's about 17 to 18 in terms of gold production. So there's about over 80% of the gold and silver and minerals in the Philippines are being underutilized. Now, I realize there's a lot of debate right now about
Yes.
should there be more mining, less mining, but I think that God gave us resources to use.
Yes.
So if we're wise with the resources we have and you safely mine the gold and do it in an environmentally friendly way, it could provide a lot more employment and a lot more wealth for the Philippines. Because say, what strengthens a nation's currency is the value of the government's gold reserves, backing up that currency. A peso is only as good as the gold backing it up.
Right.
That's right.
So praise God, central banks are buying gold now. But actually, there's a little bit of a recent controversy, perhaps, or a crisis situation. We just it got done with the constitutional crisis with Corona, diba?
Yes.
There's actually a crisis going on with the gold being sold to the BSP right now.
Yes.
And God willing, the leaders will
How come?
fix that.
How come?
Well, last July, the BIR started to charge a withholding tax when traders sold their gold to the BSP Metals Division. In the past, they would just charge a 2% excise tax. and then the trader had to report how much gold they sold and pay their taxes at the end of the year. Well, the mistake that they made, or I think the shift, what they did that caused people to stop selling gold to the BSP, is they charged that tax on the gross sale of gold.
Ah, okay.
Every business runs on a net profit margin,
Yes.
diba?
Of course.
The average gold trader,
Yes.
there are many steps between the
Yes.
mine in the mountain
Right.
and the guy who goes up the mountain and the
Yes.
person who refines it.
Yes.
There's usually about 5 steps,
Right.
from mining it out of the ground to refining it to selling
Yeah.
it to the central bank.
Right.
So the end guy, the last trader who sells it to the BSP, he's working on a 6 to 9% profit margin. Sometimes only 5 to 7% profit
Right.
margin. So between the 2% excise tax and the 5% withholding tax, they're getting taxed 7% on the gross
On the
sale.
gross.
A lot of these guys would be losing money to sell their gold to the BSP.
Yes.
So the net effect is that about 1/100th the gold that was being sold last March to the BSP is being sold now.
Yes.
In April, only 2 kilograms of gold were sold to the BSP from the whole country.
Yes.
And a year ago, about 150 to 200 kilograms were being sold a month to the Banco Central.
So-
a very simple shift that could fix this problem, because a lot of traders, they are legitimate businessmen. They want to help the Philippine economy.
Right.
Of course, they're employing lots and lots of miners and
Yes.
traders along the way. If the VIR would simply shift the strategy to go ahead and charge the tax on the front end to make sure
Right.
that people don't evade taxes, but charge them on their net profit margin.
Yes.
Charge them 20% of their 7% profit margin,
Okay.
and charge them a total 3% cumulative tax. Then the traders would start selling their gold to the BSP again and stop being forced to sell it to smugglers who are taking it to, I'm not going to name countries, but a
Thailand.
lot of them are Thailand,
Indonesia.
Indonesia, Malaysia, China, Japan, you name it.
Uh-huh.
People that are smart know what's going on right now with the BIR, and they're smuggling gold out of the country left and right.
So they are practically getting gold out of the Philippines and exporting them all over.
Yes, and
They're
some
bypassing
people,
the legal route.
Right.
exactly, legal business
Yes.
owners were forced to go into illegal business based upon that BIR policy. Now I know the head of the BIR is a possible candidate for a replacement of Corona in the Supreme Court, and I know that Pinoy and the leaders of the government want there to be righteousness, want the Filipinos to obey the rule of law.
Yes.
The simple shift could simply be tax on the front, but tax on the net profit margin
Right.
instead of the
Yes.
gross.
Right.
And now you can enforce the rule of law, and the peso can be strengthened because
Yes.
traders will again sell their gold to the BSP,
BSP.
versus weakening the peso.
Mm-hmm.
The net effect right now of the current policy
Right.
is it's really robbing pesos from Filipino savers' pockets.
Yes.
It's destroying the purchasing power
The
Mm.
power
of
purchase.
Filipinos.
Right.
And of course, the leaders don't want to harm the citizens.
Yes.
They want people to pay taxes.
That's right.
So, God willing, the leaders will make a simple shift in, they will get the right advisors. Maybe they're watching this interview. I don't know. And they will shift the policy, diba?
Right.
So there's a great opportunity for the BIR to really strengthen the treasury and with tax collections and strengthen the peso at the same time.
Okay.
If they will just shift that policy.
For our audience who's watching, who probably don't know how to trade gold as commodities,
Mm-hmm.
would you advise them to buy jewelry?
That is one way they can do it. Say you only have 1 million pesos. That's
Yes.
equivalent of about $25,000 US. A lot of people think, I don't have that much money.
Yes.
Or I only have 500,000 pesos. I'm not
Yes.
wealthy enough to go buy these gold bullion coins David's
Yes.
talking
Right,
about.
right.
Actually, you are. Silver right now, you can buy 20 silver coins for about, it's only $35 an ounce right now.
Okay.
So for about, including shipping costs, about $700, that would be roughly, let me do the math here, that would be roughly about 70,000 pesos. You can own 20 silver coins.
20 silver coins.
So gold and silver investing is actually very affordable for the average Filipino. The reason I would recommend buying silver bullion coins if you only have a few pesos versus buying jewelry is that jewelry usually is only about 55 to 70% actual gold content.
Right.
And if you need to sell a necklace, like you're wearing a beautiful necklace, by the way.
Thank you.
If you need to sell your gold necklace, you have to find someone that would melt it and put it in a form that, say, the BSP would buy it to get the most money for it, or you have to go to a pawn shop. And a pawn shop will only give you about 50 cents on the dollar
Right.
of what your gold is worth. So you'd be losing a lot of money when you sell. Again, the exit strategy is very important. You should determine how you buy based upon how you can sell. Bullion coins are bought worldwide, and they're recognized as having 99% gold or silver content. So the wisest way to buy some gold and silver is to buy the bullion coin. Sure, you can't wear it as much as you can a necklace, but when you need to sell it,
Yeah.
or when or when you want to use it, so you want to cash out and buy an apartment building with your coins, you want to make sure you're not losing cash when you sell.
That's
so
right.
people all over the world will buy bullion coins and actually give you a few resources in the book of where to sell your gold and silver.
Okay.
So that you don't have to worry about, I buy this gold, I get it shipped to me, no one knows I have it, but who am I going to sell it to?
That's right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So again, they have to buy the book. And this
Yes.
is the book of David, your guide, Treasure Islands. You really believe Treasure Islands? All the 7,000 islands have treasure?
Well, there is more treasure in the minds of men that has been mined from the earth.
Yeah.
So
All
as we
right.
renew our mind, as we utilize the wisdom of King Solomon, who had, by the way, over 60 trillion pesos worth of gold.
Wow.
You
So
know,
tell us the story of
Right.
King Solomon.
Yes. There's every Filipino is rich. Kasi God has given you wisdom. God has given you a mind to think. You have the ability to take care of your family,
Yes.
and you have the ability, if you're watching the show, to empower your family financially, diba? So I think the treasure of the Philippines is really in its people, not just in the ground.
That's
Yes.
great.
Maraming gold and silver siya sa ground,
Yes.
diba? Pero there's more. Nasa ulo tayo.
Yeah.
Right.
So applying the wisdom of King Solomon, most Filipinos are Christian. And maraming Filipinos, most Filipino families have at least one Bible. Even people in my old neighborhood of Bacang Barrio in Caloocan, they have 3 Bibles.
Yeah.
And they're considered by most Filipinos to be a poor Filipino. So I think the best thing a Filipino can do, even if they don't have 400 or 500 pesos to buy my book today, is read your Bible.
Yes.
Read Proverbs and Ecclesiastes every day. The wisdom of King Solomon is in Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. So a lot of people, they read books about Donald Trump or Henry C. or Lucio Tan, and they study successful Filipinos or international
Alright.
billionaires, but they're ignoring
American billionaires.
Yes.
But they don't read the Bible.
Yeah, they watch The Apprentice. Maybe they read books about Richard Branson, or a lot of people
Yes.
have their own favorite billionaire,
Right.
diba? Warren Buffett.
Right.
Pero King Solomon had more pera than all of the Forbes 400 lists
Right.
combined.
Yes, but he was
Right.
so
One
long
person.
ago, so people probably, especially the youth, they don't know King Solomon
Oh, opo.
and his wealth.
Yes. So think of King Solomon as the coolest billionaire you never knew, or you never saw on
Maybe
TV.
somebody should make a TV show about that.
Yes,
Can you imagine 300 golden shields?
Yes.
The Bible describes it as 300 golden shields, and he has that.
That's right.
Yeah, and wisdom is found in a
Amazing.
multitude of counselors. So why not make King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, one of your counselors?
Right.
Just read Proverbs and Ecclesiastes. That's right in your Bahay. Another thing that's amazing about
And
King
that's
Solomon.
free.
Tama.
That's free. That's even cheaper than buying Treasure Islands.
Yes.
But
And,
if they want to buy your book, David, we might forget to tell them how to go about buying this book.
They can go to any good bookstore and ask for the book.
Okay.
Also, you can buy the book directly at pinoygold.com.
PinoyGold.com.
And I should be here at least another couple of weeks on my business trip. If you buy it from the website, one benefit is I'll sign it for you personally before we ship it to you.
Right.
Okay.
So you can use either your debit card with a Visa or MasterCard logo or credit card and buy
Right.
it from the website direct.
Right.
And even if someone wants to get a sample of the book, but maybe they don't have the 500 pesos today, or they want to find out, will I get value from this book? You can also text us your name and your address.
Okay, give me your cell phone number. Where can they text you?
Yes, it's 0927-477-9596.
9596.
So just make sure to include your pangalan and your email address. Like I say, we're going to email you a sample of the book,
Right.
as well as your physical mailing address. So
Okay,
yes.
so let's go back to King Solomon.
Okay.
How much wealth did he have?
Well, there was not only gold in Israel because of his wisdom.
Right.
Other nations just brought tons of gold and
Tons.
silver to him just to hear him talk. He made silver as common as pebbles.
True.
Like they're like, oh, look, a silver coin. I'm not going to bother to pick it up. It's like a rock. That's how much wealth the nation had because of his wisdom and how he ran the country. His personal holdings alone, not including the Israeli treasury, were over $1.5 trillion in today's money, or 60 trillion pesos.
Whoa.
Just to give you an idea of the level of wisdom that he had, because a lot of people are like, oh, that was a long time ago. Maybe those strategies don't apply today.
Right.
Yes.
Every single billionaire, if you study them, they have all applied King Solomon's wisdom to a degree. Now, King Solomon also actually did a joint venture with some people in Africa and other countries,
Right.
and he owned a few gold mines.
Okay.
To give you an idea of the level of expertise required to not only mine the gold, but transport it to Israel, King Jehoshaphat, about 4 kings later, tried to restart King Solomon's gold business.
Right.
Yes.
And he was not successful.
Right.
He couldn't even get the ships down to the mine.
All right.
So just the level of wisdom required to navigate the oceans that they had to pass to reach the area where the gold mines were, King Jehoshaphat could not re-implement what King Solomon did. So it shows you the power that even if you are a Lu Shotan or a Henry C., you need to always really keep improving the value of your network, of your advisors. Because say, you may have great advisors for what business you're in right now, but say right now you don't have any precious metals and you're not prepared for a hyperinflationary situation.
Right.
You need to improve the value of your advisors, and you also need to make sure your advisors are studying and not just resting on the laurels of what they know.
Correct.
Diba? So we should be seeking wisdom. The Bible says in James, let him who wants wisdom ask of God who gives liberally. So every day we should not just rest upon our past accomplishments. You have amazing accomplishments in administering, a city as a mayor. We should not just rest upon our past accomplishments.
Yes.
I shouldn't rest upon my business accomplishments. We should seek more wisdom.
Right.
Yes.
Because God wants to use us and give us abundant life.
Yes.
So we need to keep seeking Him, seeking wisdom, and He can use us to do greater things, and we can empower ourselves and our family and others at a higher level.
And
And what
that
do you-
is more than gold.
Yes.
Yes.
And what do you advise the Filipinos who sometimes think that we're a poor country? Or
Um,
who think, yes, we have a lot of poverty.
yes, I talk about in the book, what you believe is true for you. Sabi na sa Biblia, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
So we see.
So even if right now you live in a barrio and you have 100 pesos to your name, and you're a barker, that's your job.
Yeah.
If that's your life, start telling yourself, I am rich. I am a child of God. He owns everything. He owns all the gold and silver, all the wealth in the world. I am His child. I am rich. I'm going to act like a child of God. I'm not going to focus on what I don't have. I'm going to focus on being thankful for what I do have,
Whoa.
and seeking to honor God with the resources He gave me.
Right.
You shouldn't have a lot of money. You have abilities.
That's right.
And your abilities and the use of your abilities is what will create value and wealth.
Well-
So just seek to add value to other people at a higher level,
Yeah.
and God will start blessing you with more pera.
I think what you said is right. Use your abilities. There are many Filipinos who think that they don't have enough abilities, and they also perhaps don't use them. Whatever
Opo.
abilities they
They
have.
wait for the
So you need to
opportunities.
apply.
Right.
You
Yes.
can't just sit down,
Tama.
right?
Galing.
Yeah, what you focus on expands. Don't focus on the poverty around you. Focus on God and what He has given you. And then say, Lord, thank you for what I have,
Yes.
and be a good steward of what He's given you.
Right.
A lot of people think steward is like a religious word,
Yeah.
but it's really just a word about diligence.
Yes.
If
Be
God has given you a
careful.
great voice, look at Cherise.
Yes.
She was poor. She came
Right.
from an abusive household.
Yes.
But she used the talent God gave her.
Right.
And look how God promoted her and worldwide.
Used
She went on Oprah. I discovered her from Oprah 3 years ago. And I was actually able to meet her a year later in Vegas at a taping of a TV show.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how when you use your talents, you never know how God may promote you.
That's
True.
right.
You may end up
True.
inspiring thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people. But it all starts with their thinking.
That's
Use
right.
what God's given you and be thankful.
Yeah. Thank you
Great.
very much, David,
Yes.
for
So wealthy
inspiring
tayo.
us.
We are wealthy in the Philippines.
Of
We're not
course,
poor.
yes, agree. We all agree. No? Our wealth is
Yeah.
in ourselves.
Yes.
No? So thank you for sharing with us your new book. And ladies and gentlemen, Treasure Islands, let's all get wealthy. We'll see you next Friday. Thank you for joining us in our program Perspectives. Thank you, David.
Thank you for having me.
Thank